Chair Gensler of the SEC has said on multiple occasions that he thinks that these platforms need to be regulated like national securities exchanges. He's expressed concerns about how they handle custody. He's expressed concerns about whether they have protections in place. And if you were setting up a hypothetical to prove him right, you couldn't do better than what has sort of just happened with FTX.
And since you've started looking at crypto, have you noted a positive shift from the way the tax code is looking at it, or has it gone negative?
I think it's gone positive, but it is a political tug of war because we know that there are some legislators out there who are kind of crypto friendly. And there are some legislators out there who are deeply suspicious of cryptocurrency. And if the latter get the upper hand, we'll get legislation that's less favorable. And that's kind of the way it works. And you never know what Congress will do in the next 4 months. So it's looking better, but that could shift. I mentioned this as a tax bill, but it's really more of a crypto bill than a tax bill, though it has some tax aspects. One of the things this bill would do is it would regulate stable coins. Stable coins are really at the heart of the use case for cryptocurrency. It's a great invention, but you don't want to really pay for things in Bitcoin or Ethereum. You want to transfer to stable coins and pay for things with that because the merchants then can accept it without worrying about exchange rates.
Right.
So that's the use case. But in order to do that, people have to have confidence in stable coins. And they have to know which stable coins are completely legit. And that requires some government agency to regulate them and put a stamp of approval saying, USDC, that's legit. We've checked it out, and they've got dollars backing their stable coins.
Sam, yesterday we did hear from Gary Gensler those same comments where he said there's no reason to treat the crypto market differently just because they're using different technology. Is it really as simple as that? Applying the regulation that's set aside for the equity space in crypto, are they inherently different?
So I think the same principles apply, right? When you look at the principles of customer protection, the principles of transparency. If you know that Alice's address is that one right over there, then you can see exactly where all the funds came from and went. Not just one hop, but the entire history. You can trace through from start to finish. Now, it's all anonymous, right? But you can see what went to there, then there, then there, then there, then there. And so if you can periodically kind of dive in and get real identity associations, it's a really powerful tool for better or for worse, for tracking what happened. If you don't have any of that mapping, though, then, yeah, sure, you can trace what the Bitcoin did in sort of 16-character string land, but that tells you absolutely nothing. Basically, if you can get footholds of, know your customer, then it's actually very transparent and easy to trace through. If you can't get that, then it's totally private. And so from for instance, financial crimes point of view, right, what this means in practice is that all of the sort of large centralized exchanges like FTX are doing know your customer on our users. And if there's a suspected, sort of illicit activity financing, right, and, someone from Treasury reaches out to us about it, right, we can associate, given the ID information we've collected, an address with a user. And then we or they can then trace through where all those funds came from and ended up. And periodically it might hit another centralized exchange. Then you can go to them, right, and track down, well, okay, what was the activity that happened there? If all of the big portals between sort of like blockchain land and the real world are doing diligence, or all the big trusted portals are doing diligence, then you can do quite good tracing from a financial crimes perspective, and it's actually shockingly ineffective to try to launder money through crypto. If you have lots of leaks, if there's lots of exchanges that are operating bank accounts and taking virtual currency and are really falling down on their duty, then it becomes impossible to trace anything that goes through, because those are basically big mixers.
So we've seen truckers protesting COVID-19 restrictions, resulting in in some instances having their bank accounts frozen. In some cases, their crypto wallets frozen. As a global company, does that worry you, the idea of governments freezing accounts?
So it's, on the one hand, it's a thing that there has to be a pathway for, because of, illicit finance, because of countering terrorist activities and financing. And so, the answer can't be that, like, there is no regulatory oversight of this or anything like that. On the other hand, I do think it's really important for that to be used really judiciously and thoughtfully and appropriately by governments. In the end, I think what's important is that, like, you're never going to know what the right decision is for sure, but it's really important that everyone be on board that reasonable decisions are being made, and have faith that the system is working reasonably in this. And I think losing that faith is really, really expensive.
Hello, Craig. How would you like to know the truth? The truth about what? We're just going through the neighborhood and seeing if you've accepted the government into your heart. No, I don't think so.
My colleague and I, we went to Shakespeare's at DMV. We went to DMV, we admit all our shortcoming and sin, and a big tidal wave of peace and serenity went through the store and touch your heart.
My sense has been that our sort of conversations and interactions with Homeland Security, DOJ, Secret Service, other FBI, other agencies that are looking into terrorist financing, illicit finance, and generally, like, flagged transactions, have been really positive and productive. Whenever we've been reached out to directly by law enforcement, I think we felt like the U.S. law enforcement has been acting pretty reasonably and responsibly in that, and been pretty happy to help and to support that. So overall, and again, I don't want to make too strong of a sort of like an absolute statement here, but like overall, I think our interactions with like U.S. Law enforcement on this have been like fairly positive.
What's going to happen now is there won't be another situation like this for institutional investors ever again. We're simply not going to put capital to work until this stuff gets regulated. And what is occurring, and I'm just one voice in it, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to fly to Washington, and I want regulation. I want it now. No more delaying. I think this puts tremendous pressure on the SEC. I think a bill like the Stablecoin Transparency Act, which has been floating around forever, not going to signature, not going to markup. We got to stop doing this to ourselves. As an industry, it has to stop, but also it's time to move forward with regulation.
It appears that a lot of customers lost money, and that's where our mission is about those customers.
Well, let's talk about that, Gary, because critics would say, look, you have been talking about the need for regulating, and yet have not. There's been lots of focus. We had you on last time when you went after Kim Kardashian. But on a relative basis, going after Kim Kardashian compared to what is now a massive undoing of FTX isn't enough. What do you say about that?
Look, I think that investors need better protection in this space. But I would say this is a field that's significantly non-compliant, but it's got regulation, and those regulations are often very clear. And we have multiple paths And one path is working with those crypto exchanges, crypto lending platforms, and to get them properly registered. And why that matters is that's so the public's protected. But
there are millions, if not billions of dollars that are going to get tied up that potentially will get lost in this situation by investors, not just retail investors, but pensions that have given money to venture capitalists that have invested in these things. Shouldn't this be more regulated?
Yes, Andrew, and the laws are clear. And look, the runway is running out. I mean, the American public and investors around the globe are getting hurt by a field that says they put a lot of fancy talk around it, Andrew, and the technology is interesting. And I taught it at MIT, and I think that there is some innovations here, but we still need investor protection. And so what I would say is, come in and talk to us. You've heard that before. The runway is getting shorter.
Gary, you said people should come in, if you will. Sam Bankman-Fried, it appears from your calendar, on March 29th, 2022, at 4 p.m., came in and actually met with you, along with Brad Katsuyama of IEX, someone who has draped himself in the flag, if you will, of an honorable exchange. Do you feel like you were hoodwinked?
I think we've been clear in these meetings, and you can look at my calendar's public, many meetings with folks in this industry. Very clear in these meetings, same message to the public, same message to them, that non-compliance is not going to work. The